Has Meghan Markle been exposed as a liar? That is what so many people, not only in the public and, the people like us who have kind of been on Meghan and on Meghan from the beginning, but even the media as well, the media that should be on her side is starting to call her out. And it's kind of interesting to see that people just aren't buying it anymore. And America itself, which used to be kind of her safe haven, she thought, and everything, is kind of starting to turn its back on her. And her and Harry's brand, I think, is really starting to seriously implode. Hello guys, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and on this channel we talk about everything related to royals. So this news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, television shows, movies, and history. We do it all right here. So if you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. And like I said, today's another Harry and Meghan story. I know some of you guys love this and some of you are like, wait, what about the other royals? No worries. Most of the royals are actually on break right now. So we'll get kind of the regular royals starting to ramp up and do more engagements soon. I've seen a couple of engagements come through, and we even have a marriage engagement between Prince Hussein, I believe, of Jordan, and he has a wife to look forward to. They'll get married next year in the country of Jordan. So there is just some things going on, but not quite that much because everybody usually takes a break around this time. And Harry and Meghan, oh, there's so much news. I still need to do my review of archetypes. But today I just really kind of wanted to go over how, this lie that Meghan told apparently in the cut. I mean, because at this point, as far as we all know, it's a lie. Nobody can corroborate that this happened. And there's only actually two people who could confirm this. One guy wasn't even there, and the other guy says he talked to her for about a minute, and he doesn't really remember what they discussed, but it doesn't sound like what she said to the cut was even a topic, a discussion. So why does she continue to do this? I think that's a super fascinating question to ask. And I have a couple of ideas why. And, as this goes on and as, she kind of keeps talking, the more kind of even the US media is turning its back on her, and more are people kind of disconnecting with her, because she and Harry, I feel like, both kind of have diarrhea of the mouth, and none of it's going well. None of it's going over well with pretty much anyone. So they keep doing this, and I think it's really been kind of severely damaging their brand. And, they're just going to talk more this next week, and I just don't see it going well. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But without further ado, let's just go over how this started. So Meghan did an interview with The Cut, which is part of New York Magazine. It's kind of the fashion section. And she made a very specific comment. And there were two things that people were outraged by. One that, she compared herself to Nelson Mandela. And the other part was that the author almost kind of signified, well, isn't Meghan a saint? So shouldn't we all love her? It was kind of interesting. So here's the quote. I just had Archie. She had gone to the Lion King premiere, and she said, I just had Archie. It was such a cruel chapter. I was scared to go out. A cast member from South Africa pulled her aside. He looked at me, and he's just like light. He said, I just need you to know, when you married into this family, we rejoiced in the streets the same we did when Mandela was freed from prison. Of course, she knows she's no Mandela, but perhaps even telling me this story is a mode of self-defense. Because if you are a symbol for all that is good and charitable, how can anybody find you objectionable? How can anybody hate you? Ooh, people were rankled by this Nelson Mandela comparison. Not to mention the fact that his, grandson came out and said, no, you have nothing in common with Nelson Mandela. Just because you went to South Africa once and he's from South Africa doesn't mean you two have anything in common. But what's really interesting is that she made this comment, and you know what journalism people do, people who do journalisming, as some say, but journalists who are good journalists, they check somebody's statement. And at this point, everybody's kind of starting to fact check Meghan, because a lot of what she said has just been not true, or falsehoods or misleading. And, people have called her out on it quite a bit. And so people are like, okay, so there is somebody from South Africa who should be at the premiere who can tell us more about this story. I mean, probably some even some journalists who are pro-Meghan were like, hey, we want to know more about what you said, more about your experience. Well, they couldn't find anybody to corroborate this. So there is actually one actor who was South African on the film. He wasn't even at the London premiere. So he couldn't have told her this story. The only other South African who was at the premiere was not an actor, because she specifically said an actor. Let's look again. She specifically said a cast member, and she is an actress, so she should know who a cast member is. Cast member, is my understanding, is generally an actor. So the one South African guy who was an actor on the film had no clue what she was talking about. So, and then you go to the composer, and the composer was actually reached out to by the Daily Telegraph, trying again to confirm this story. Ironically, this actor guy was actually friends with Nelson Mandela. And so he said, I've never met Meghan Markle. This seems like something of a faux pas by her. I have never met the Duchess at all. It just may be misremembering on her side. It is baffling to me. I am the only South African in the cast. I play Rafiki. Seth Rogen plays Pumbaa. Donald Glover plays Simba, and Beyonce plays Nala, the actor added. I cannot even tell you now what month she married or what year. So he does not care about her in the slightest. That's just basically what it says. He knows nothing about her. He doesn't really care about her, but she is implicating him in this statement. And again, it could be a faux pas by her, but we know she has said false truths, mistruths, half-truths in the past. And she likes spinning a narrative about herself. So this faux pas, this is very serious. To implicate somebody in your lie, that's very serious. So he's like, I don't even know what to make of this. I don't know why she would say this. And I think, again, this is very concerning. You know, if I was Meghan's PR person, I would be severely concerned, because your client can't be relied on for the truth. And that's deeply problematic. He also doubted South Africans celebrated Meghan's marriage. In my memory, nobody would have known when she got married, when or what. We have no South African link to the wedding or to her marrying Harry. I am truly surprised by this. For me, it is a non-event, the whole thing. I mean, golly, that is wiping my hands. I don't know this woman. I don't know what she's talking about. I mean, honestly, he almost is like, I did a whole video, you know, is she calculating or crazy? I mean, he's kind of almost, you can see himself, he's leaning towards crazy. He's like, I don't know why she's talking about this. And again, there was the Express actually did try to do their homework, and they found something where a group of people apparently did watch the wedding on the screen. But he's right, there's no South African connection. Meghan went to South Africa like one time. And so I can see somebody out my window with their dog, and it's weird. And then Nelson Mandela's grandson went down and he said, it can never be compared to the celebration of someone's wedding. And to me, this has always been my thing. I'm sorry, and I guess maybe this is, you know, perhaps this is just my perception. I just never thought it would be an issue for somebody of African descent of any kind to marry into the royal family. I never thought that would be an issue. So, I mean, I get that it's a celebration for many, but honestly, I just never thought there would be that barrier. Here's the thing too, she's not the first woman of color to marry into a royal family. That's Princess Angela of Liechtenstein. So, you know, I see the history making of her marriage, but at the same time, what I really feel like Meghan has made this crutch, and that her marriage to Harry is essentially like, it has changed world history. I'm sorry, but it hasn't. It really hasn't. And at some point, you know, somebody else of, you know, maybe somebody from Kenya will marry into the royal family who will be perhaps darker skinned. So do we celebrate again, or did Meghan break the mold? I mean, again, this stuff, I think Meghan is so focused on race. That's all that matters in her mind anymore. We can even see that from her podcast Archetypes, which I'm going to do reviews on here in a minute, is that she claims to want to talk about archetypes, but all she talks about is race. That's all she talks about is race. So what is it, Meghan? What really are you trying to do? And again, we see this in the South African thing. Everybody's like holding up their hands going, I don't know what she's talking about. So, and then we go on to the composer. The composer was the only notable South African on the cast or on the crew in some way. I mean, technically he's crew, not cast. And so he was introduced to Meghan. He was at the London premiere, but he doesn't even remember what they talked about. So here's what he says to the Daily Telegraph. So the other article, I do apologize, was actually from the Sunday Times, the Times of London. So this is from the Telegraph. He says, indeed, I was at the Lion King 2019 premiere and met the royals. I cannot comment on the matter as it was 3 years ago, and I don't remember details of that conversation, which was less than a minute, except the royals were going to South Africa or Botswana. You know what that also tells me? Meeting Meghan for him was not that notable. It really wasn't, because he doesn't even remember the conversation. I feel like if I met somebody notable, and I have met a couple of notable people, I don't remember exactly the conversations, but I think I would generally remember like what we discussed, especially if it was something like that he pulled her aside and he told her this glorious story. I think that would be memorable. This was something, perhaps this person wanted to say, but it apparently never happened. Why does Meghan do this? She's done this again multiple times in the Oprah Winfrey interview. She also did this in the Cut interview, saying that, every day that she was basically a better parent than the Cambridges, because if her child was going to the school in the UK like the Cambridges do, she'd have to deal with a press pack of 40 photographers every day. And Chris Shipp from ITV like totally dismantled that and said it's only like the day they started school. So that's only been done twice for the Cambridge children, and there were only like 2 photographers and I think maybe 1 videographer there. That was it. There wasn't a whole press corps. There was, a couple of photographs so that, the public could see the kids arriving. Again, to attach the public to the children, because that is part of the monarchy, is establishing its succession and its long reign. And so you just look at this and going, and I knew when she said that, I was like, that's a lie. That's totally made up. So why does she do this? Well, I think there is a couple of reasons. Kind of number one is that she was a C-list, D-list actress for years. So what she was able to do is she was able to craft this narrative and persona about herself because nobody cared enough to double check what she said. So she could say X, Y, and Z. She could say she volunteered, every day, in the, what is it called? Skid Row in Los Angeles. She could say that she, basically that she filmed there every day, whatever. And sorry, guy came by the window and was like looking in. I like the natural light. I feel like it helps a bit. So, so she could say that she volunteered at Skid Row every day. Somebody could check that, but if you're a D-list actress on Suits, nobody's going to care. And so I think that has been her mentality, is that she doesn't think through the fact that people are going to double check her. And I think part of it too goes into that, allegation that she is a narcissist. Now I say allegation just to protect myself, but there's a lot of talk about how she exhibits the traits of a narcissist. And so that she basically thinks that, I guess kind of like a god, and that, that whatever she says will come true. And that's just not the case. And there is a difference between your truth and objective truth. And Meghan leans on the your truth mentality that, I can, make my own truth, make it my own destiny. But that's just not the case. The world wouldn't function if there's not such a thing as objective truth. Now, this has gotten very, very muddled in the last couple of years because a lot of people are saying your truth, my truth, but there is, when a crime happens, everybody does see something different of the crime. The police officers get eyewitness reports and they get different reports. That's totally normal. Everybody gets a piece of the picture. And so, but there is something also objective truth. Everybody gets a piece of the picture, but if, they have a video surveillance, then they get the whole picture because the camera doesn't lie. And Meghan continuing this, perpetually kind of lying and saying half-truths, mistruths, misleading statements is, I think, starting to rub a lot of people the wrong way. Even in the US media, people, there was a New York Post title, The Petulant Princess. You even have Don Lemon from CNN, who's a liberal, turning his back on her. Not totally, but, kind of calling her out, saying, so you didn't really feel like you had to live as a black woman until you started dating Harry. And it's like, well, that's a sign of your privilege. Because Meghan's whole thing is perpetual victimhood. Even as a princess in a $15 million mansion. I mean, I know she's not really a princess, but just to say that she still complains about just about everything. Nothing is ever good enough for Meghan Markle. Even in her $15 million mansion, she has something to complain about. Because she also has this perpetual victimhood. And she needs to elevate her story constantly, that she is overcoming these things. But again, nobody is buying this anymore. Nobody's interested. And people are just, I think, generally starting to get frustrated with her and Harry, and that they can't keep their stories straight, particularly her. I don't think this is much a problem with Harry. I think he's kind of gotten loosey-goosey into the, the psychobabble of Better Up and everything and Travelist. But Meghan, again, she wants to constantly control her narrative, and so she expounds on things. She misleads things. She gave the author a fantastic story. I mean, people celebrated in the streets, but nobody can really find good evidence of this. And nobody can find somebody who actually told her this. So if nothing can be found, well, then it's a lie. And she's starting to lie perpetually on the international stage. And that's hugely problematic, because part of her whole thing as well is that she has, the truth about the time in the royal family. Well, every time she says something now, people are going to question her more and more, because she can't be relied on to give an accurate view of the facts. She is misleading. She is lying. So, allegedly, I should say. Allegedly, she is lying. But, the evidence is there. I'm not making up the evidence. I wouldn't say that. I think in the original video, I was like, well, it could have happened. I don't know. But now we kind of know pretty much, unless something else comes out. I mean, we did get an anonymous source from South Africa that really did say the heater caught on fire, even though he didn't see it. This is from the podcast. So even though he didn't see the heater on fire, it did melt. So apparently there was a fire involved, but he never saw the fire. Again, and it just was kind of convenient to have somebody come out and go, yeah, there was a fire, even though pretty much everybody else was like, well, there's a little smoke, no fire. I mean, that's still, obviously, you don't want a child in there with that situation. But again, it's like, well, you have competent people, they unplugged it, they addressed the situation, that should be good enough. But it doesn't seem to ever be the case for Meghan. So what Meghan is doing, I think, is hugely damaging to her brand and her and Harry's future. If they cannot be relied on for the truth, then everything they say from the book, from the podcast, everything's going to be questionable. Everybody's going to start questioning things more and more, because they're unreliable narrators. And once that's been established, that's really, really hard to break. And again, people are going to be looking for it over and over and over again, because you set up a precedence where this is going to be the case pretty much every time. So guys, let me know what you think about this video. I was, again, going to do my archetypes review, and I'm going to do those next, but I just thought that, like, nobody can corroborate this story. And people are talking about it. The Sunday Times, the Telegraph, Don Lemon doesn't like her anymore. The New York Post, the petulant princess, like, her stock is going down every day. Not getting better. The more she talks, the worse it gets. And that wasn't the case for a while, but it is the case now. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.